Hey everybody, this is Jimmy and welcome back to Jimmy Does Knitting. This is my knitting podcast where I do things a little different. I take a topic that I am working on with my knitting world at the moment and then we discuss it in however we choose to discuss it. I think that there are a couple of you that are new here, so welcome. I'm Jimmy. I'm an expat living in Amsterdam. I'm from the US originally, as you probably can tell. And yeah, I moved here about 8 years ago and I picked up knitting not even in the pandemic. I picked up crochet in the pandemic. And then like after about a year and a half, 2 years, I was like, I want a cable knit jumper. And so I taught myself how to knit and I have been addicted ever since. So, I mean, that's briefly my story. There's more to it, but not really. Every video is going to have timestamps, so if you're not interested in a particular sweater or part of the topic, you can skip ahead below. All my show notes and everything are going to be below, and you can catch me on Ravelry, YouTube, obviously, and Instagram as Jimmy Does Knitting. Everything is unified now, and we are ready to go. I also sell some patterns. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. We're getting more and more. Specifically, this, but we'll get to that later. Today's topic is sweaters. I love sweaters. They're my favorite thing to knit. I love a garment. I love knitting sweaters. It makes me happy. I can wear it. I like to be like, I don't know, hugged by it. It brings me so much joy. So if you're not so much a sweater knitter or you don't care, please feel free to visit some of my other videos where we talk about accessories or gifts or modifying things or a whole plethora of other things. And yeah, that's wonderful. But today is all sweaters, which is like my happy place. Before we get into that, a little bit of admin. Thank you so much to the people for the comments on my comfort knitting video. It really was super kind of the people that watched that and commented. I'm feeling better. I listened to a little bit of La Bouche this morning right before filming, and I went to Mysore for the first time in like 2 weeks. And the sun is out. The sun is out, which is like the biggest thing in the world, and that is the biggest deal. Situation really hasn't changed with anything, but I don't know. You have your ups and downs, and that's kind of life. So thank you all for that. And then also thank you for the people that suggested cable knit jumpers for the men's cable knit jumper episode. I put some more on the Ravelry list because of it. I love a cable knit. I really do. And I think that was so nice. And if you like it, I think I'm going to get more of these videos out. I don't really want to be like, oh, men knitting. And, you know, I think that that's a little... I don't want to be a meninist, but it is nice to pick up a pattern and not have to like edit it and like modify heavily or remap it as you go. I think some people found it really helpful to do that. So maybe I'll probably do more videos like that because I just think that I don't know. It's like when you do a men's garment, you kind of look for the same three things, and you know, there are other people out there that are doing other things. And I believe that's all like the admin. There's a little bit coming up in the next section where we talk about this. This is what I'm wearing. This is a finished object you haven't seen. I finished it a couple weeks ago, but it didn't relate to anything in the podcast, so I did it. This is what I am calling the Polder Hoodie. And this thing is phenomenal. Like, let's take a look at this, shall we? There's like this detail right here. There's like a seed stitch and then a detail, and it goes all the way down on the arms. And so you have this really cool like line in the back and line in the front, and this just plain stockinette with some short rows. And the hood is really cool. So like I did another version before. I did it with a different texture. I didn't like the texture for that sweater. It was quilted stitch. I really like that stitch, but not for this hoodie. And I did a different hood, but this time I did it so it lays kind of flat. I probably should have blocked it. That would have been helpful. But it lays flat and it looks good. And then the pattern that I wrote, I modified it to be a little bit bigger. This is a little bit on the smaller side, but so when you're writing it, it's a little bit bigger. So this is my new hoodie. I am putting it out for a test knit. So this is a test knit call officially. It is a worsted weight garment. I knit this in Woolyknit. There was a sale on the Aran weight British cones, and so I got 3 of them. I used 2 and a bit of the cones. And so yeah, it uses a decent amount of yarn. I'm size 3 of 8. So I'm like a 34-inch chest, not very wide. And then this is like a 42-inch width right about here, before the gusset increases and stuff. It's a really unique construction. In order to get this line here, which I think looks really quite nice, is you knit it in one piece. So it's you start from the back, you knit up, and you knit out with the sleeves, you knit around the back, and then you do some short rows, and then you do some short rows in collar shaping, and then you knit along the sleeves and down, and then you seam it here, and then you add the hoodie and the cuffs. You just sew those onto it. You knit those onto it, rather. So that's the basic of it. It's 4.5 millimeter needles and 5 millimeters for this, which is a US 7 and a US 8, I believe. And it's like squishy and wonderful and really nice. I've seen some things around like knitting world lately where people are like, I could never purl, or like seams, like what is it? And I think we need to start knitting with a little bit less fear in our lives. We need to be able to, do a purl stitch every once in a while, or knit flat, and like you're really limiting yourself if you're not doing those sort of things. And I think it's really like, you just miss out on a bunch of fun. Like, you can't knit this hoodie if you're scared of seaming. And guess what? This is not that difficult. It's not a beginner pattern, but I would say that like for an advanced beginner or intermediate, it is pretty good. So it's like seed stitch, so it's knit purl texture, back and forth, back and forth. There are some increases, which is just like a make one right or make one left. For the increases on the sleeve, what I do is just like a backwards loop cast on. And then German short rows are the techniques that you need for the shoulders and the hoods. And then for the way back, it's like the opposite. So instead of a backwards loop cast on, you bind off. And instead of a make one left, make one right, it's slip, slip, knit, or a knit two together. And like that's how you do it. And then there's this nice salvage stitch that I put in. So like at the end you just knit every stitch. This is not my secret or giving anything about the pattern away, but I think it's really nice if you knit everything is a knit stitch, because then when you go to seam everything together, it's a lot easier to see where you need to pick up. And this is the bottom of the seam. It's pretty well hidden. You can still see it, but it's pretty easy. You just start, one side, go to the cuff, one side, go down. And because of all the shaping and the short rows and stuff like that, you can pretty much see where you are. So this is not like a tremendously difficult knit. It's a interesting knit. It's a fun knit. When you get to these sleeves and you're just going back and forth, it can be a little tedious. I'm not going to lie, but then it's broken up by the short rows, one more sleeve, and then decrease, like heavily decrease. And once you get to those decreases, you like fly. So that's the sweater. This is the Polder. Oh, the name. So I live in the Netherlands, and there's like Polder country. It's not like the most beautiful name. I'm aware of this. It's like the way that they used to do it back in the day is they would build like a dike, which is like a mound of earth that holds back river, marsh, whatever, body of water. And then they have the windmills that would drain the land below. So instead of building up the land, they took the water out. And so that's how they got that. And then the drain land was called the polder, which you could use for farming and whatever. And so they had these like a lot of little like strips with small canals all around them. And I thought that this looks very much like a polder, where you have the land below, you have the dike, which I like saying, but you have the dike or like, you know, the stuff holding back the water, and then just like stockinette is the water. And I thought it fit well. It had some relation to me and it represented other things. So this is the Polder Hoodie. One thing I will say, I forgot my swatch. Hold on. I have a box of swatches over here. So this was put through the laundry, so this is not exactly what you need to do. It really isn't what you need to do. But for like a swatch, I would suggest doing like the seed stitch and then probably practice the welt, which is not that difficult of a technique, and I'll include a video, and then do the stockinette. So anyway, that being said, we are putting out a tester call. I'm going to leave it open for a week. It is a bit of a bigger project, so I'm thinking like an 11-week test. We'll see where everybody is with everything. I got this done within a month, both versions within like a month, maybe a little bit over a month, so it wasn't that bad. There is, like I said, worsted weight yarn, so it's not going to be like, you know, those fingering weight ones that go super, super slow, which might be my next project. Anyway, I'm putting out the test. The links are below. I'm going to run it through Discord so people can have a discussion about it. I can post videos as I come through them. I'm going to be doing some tutorials along with it, and I'll also put some tutorials on the page. And yeah, fill out the form. If you fill it out, you're probably going to get in, because I don't think many people watch these videos. If you live in the Netherlands or in Amsterdam or in the Randstad, you will probably get in. If you know somebody that would love to knit this pattern, you please send it to them and say like, hey, apply for this test knit. That would be very greatly appreciated. This is unisex. It's a hoodie. It's unisex. So lady, boy, everything in between, you can go for it. It doesn't have to be one solid color either. You can have fun with it, right? So that's what I'm putting out there. I would love to get this starting, tested, and then with a release, I guess in March is what I'm aiming for. So let's see. Everything's with the tech editor right now, so I'm hoping that by the time that the test is live, that the document is in like, it's close now. We've had a couple rounds of revisions, but it's not quite that. Anyway, I think that's everything. If not, check the show notes. I'll include it there. Also, I will post everything on my Instagram about this that you need to know. And yeah, I'm looking very forward to this. And I hope you guys like this hoodie and that you want to knit it and you want to test it. So this is my Polder hoodie. This next garment is not new, but I wanted to discuss it. This is my Reiko by, I forgot her name. She's this little Japanese woman. She's adorable. It's a saddle shoulder sweater. So like the saddles you start with, and then it carries down the sleeve, and then it has this really nice front panel, which they call the caterpillar stitch. And then I modified it a little bit on the back. I just did some ribbing of like a 5x1 ribbing or something to kind of harken back to the front of the garment. It's supposed to be just this stitch for like, I don't know, 10 rows or something like that, and then plain, which is fine, but I liked it better with the ribbing, and I'm glad I made that choice. I'm bringing all of this up because I hated this garment. It's not because of the pattern, it is because of the yarn. So the yarn was this terrible yarn, and it wasn't rustic, it was coarse. It felt like tufting yarn or like rug yarn or something like that. And I've seen a couple people post on Instagram about it and being like, oh, I love this yarn, it's so affordable, it's so great. And I didn't like it. I still don't like it, but we did things to save it because this is a beautiful sweater and I don't wear it enough. And I did something and I wanted to discuss. So I real talk, I steal a bunch of hotel stuff all the time. So like the shampoo, conditioner, I love a hotel lotion. I use it like every day, just like whatever. Those things are incredibly wasteful, but I love them. And I have a collection of like molten brown, like the really nice ones. that from like a really fancy hotel. I stayed out in Prague with my family, and I used like a whole bottle of conditioner on this thing. I put it in some hot water and I loaded that up with conditioner. And you know what? It's wearable. I still don't think it's my favorite yarn, but yeah, I wanted to be able to wear this because it's beautiful and it took a long time, and I think it's great. So if you have a sweater that you think is too coarse or something, just like condition the crap out of it. And I also agitated it a bit because I know that this yarn softens with a bit of agitation and washing in general. So there was a wash involved. Agitation does cause felting, which for most garments is you don't really want to do, but this can handle it because it's so thick. So that is what I did with this. And so this is my Ryu. I'm looking forward to wearing it a little bit more. This is a lighter-ish sweater because this mesh is a bit see-through and I am cold all of the time. So this is perfect. This is a good transitional one. But I wanted to bring it up. And I'm going to take another sip of coffee and we will get back to some good knitting. Sweater number three is this one. If you've been following me on Instagram, I cannot get enough of this. This is like my happy place with knitting. It is everything I want, I love. It's just, I need more of these sweaters in my life and I'm able to make them, and I'm going to. So this is, I mean, just look at it. Let's just take a minute. Do you see this? Do you see these cables? You see this texture? Ugh. So this is the Awen by Meghan Babin. Although I just watched a Flannel and Pearls episode and he is knitting the same thing and he called it the Awen by Meghan Babin. I'm hoping I say it somewhat right. Anyway, it is this is the sweater. This is what we came here for, kids. It is fantastic. I knit this with Rerum Natura Gilliat in the color Ebene. I knit most things in black, if you guys don't know. It's a worsted weight yarn. It's 19 to 17 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches, 250 meters per 100 grams. It's 100% wool. It's really nice. And actually, I've worked with this before, but I worked with it with like another yarn and color work. And then this softened up so nice. Like it is even more luxurious than I had thought. Now, I will say, when it comes to cabling, you have to make a decision with this yarn. You see how flat the cables are? They're well defined, which is what I want. I didn't want them to be like blurry and mohair, but they're fairly flat, and that's just with the yarn construction and the yarn type. I knew this going in, so that's fine. Typically, they say like do like an, I don't know, 6-8 plied yarn or something with a cable, so you can get them really like plumped up and big. The yarn that this calls for, which is Hudson and West Forge, is very much that. I've worked with that yarn before. I have the Savin sweater in that. I will also rave about that for forever. It is much more of like a plumpier cable. I mean, it looks beautiful. That one's great. This one is also great, and I'm very pleased. But that's just information to know. The yarn construction, the yarn fiber really does make a difference, and when you do things like a cable or a texture, that will make a difference. And it all depends on what you want. Like, so for this, I just use, like a typical worsted weight multiply yarn. But I mean, if you were to use it with like a mohair or something else, it would change how it looked. And I think that's fine. Whatever preference you have, go for it. This one is the second size that I knit, but I knew that my gauge was a little bit bigger. So I normally like to knit a 42 inch-ish, 41, 42 inch. And this is the 39 inch size, but the next one was like 43 and a half, which was too big. But I knew that my gauge was larger because I I did a little swatch. Did I swatch properly? No, but I did a little swatch. So I knew that this was going to grow. So I took a risk and I went a size down. I was in between. So I went lower and this fits perfectly. This fits wonderfully. It's really good. The only modification that I made is the collar. It calls for a 1x1 ribbed collar that's folded over. I did a 2x2 and I made it a little longer. I may have picked up too many stitches. I'm not really quite sure how I feel about this collar, which is my own thing. But because it's just sewn on, I can rip it out. I probably will rip it out and I will probably tell you about it later. But for now, it's just the folding over collar. I think I'm going to try to steam it a little bit flatter. That's the one thing about like worsted weight yarns and stuff in these like folded over collars is they get quite thick and I feel like they stand up quite, turtlenecky, and I don't know if I like it. Plus I think I did too many stitches. Anyway, it's really fixable. I have a ton of yarn. I ordered 9 skeins like it said, and I used 6. I continental purl, I combination knit, and I'm wondering if that is. I always have a ton of leftover yarn. Now, as a rule, I sort of would rather have leftovers than not have, and then just have to reorder and stuff. So I mean, my stash is growing. But I had like 3 balls left over of this. It was quite a significant difference for this sweater in this amount, which is fine. It's just also information. This is a raglan style sweater. It is knit in pieces. So you knit the 2 sleeves, and then you knit the back, and then the front, and then you sew down and down, and then you go joop, joop, and you're done. The sewing took a while, but it's beautiful. She does this, and I'll talk about this on the Paragon, but I lifted this technique, but this is a really beautiful 2x2 rib start, and she gives you really good instructions for how this is. And I stole it and then used it on another project because it's wonderful. Meghan, in the stuff she writes, is like perfect. She gives you schematics, so if you need to like adjust length or anything, if you are not, more standard, then it is. These things are written so well. The cables are beautiful. The patterns are beautiful. It's well thought out. Everything matches. Like, it's top notch, top quality. Like, really good. She used to be the editor of Interweave Knits, Interweave magazine or something like that before she went and got her own company. Highly recommend. There is one little thing is in my last video I was talking about her cousin who makes the sweaters look very good. And it got back to him, and he was quite flattered, so that was a little bit embarrassing. But yeah, I'm obsessed with this stuff independent of the model, and I think this is a really nice sweater. I debuted it on Thanksgiving, like a little housewife. It's nice to have expats over for Thanksgiving and just have sort of like American tradition things and see what they think about it. Like, there was like a dried onion soup from like Lipton that we put like sour cream in, and people loved it. Or like, we always do a pumpkin pie, which is not a thing here, and people love it. And like, roasted turkey and potatoes, and then we do the green bean casserole with like the dried onions on top, and like the mushroom soup and stuff. And people are just like, what is this food? And my Mr. Does Knitting is very good at cooking, and he fancies himself a little bit of a Nigella Lawson, so he loves it. And we prepare, and we have everybody over. It's always a really nice time, and it's a good excuse before all the holidays. Thanksgiving in general, I think if I was in the States, I would not be celebrating it. It doesn't settle well with me. Never really has. And I've lived away from family for long enough that it was just like, I'll take the day off. It's fine. But I don't know. Do you guys care about this? That's what's happening. I wore this to Thanksgiving. I looked glamorous. I also, as a side tangent on the tangent, I have this like box of knits. So I don't show everything I make on the podcast I just don't, especially if I knit like hats. I mean, for a while I was knitting a ton of hats on the train, and I don't show it because it's not interesting or whatever. But I had this like huge big box of knits that I wanted to give away because I knit what I want to. I don't really like gift knit. Like if I want to knit a sweater for somebody, I will knit it for them, or if I want to knit something, I will take it and I will knit it. But like I don't gift knit for the holidays. I don't do anything like that. So I have just like a box of stuff that I would never use myself. And people cleaned it out. I mean, there were a bunch of hats left, but there were a ton of hats to begin with. But I was really glad that people will use it because it just sits in a room over there that's like, it's just gathering dust, and it was like hundreds of euros worth of yarn in there, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it. So that's sort of my knitting gift insight. They're like, well, I'll pay you for it, and it's like, don't, just enjoy it, because otherwise it just sits there, and now I have room to fill it with a bunch of other crap, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I also know a couple people now that want certain types of things, and I'm like, well, now I can make this sort of thing. They'll love it. All that to say, yeah, it's almost Sinterklaas, which is a thing in the Netherlands. I'm not going to get into it, but anyway, Sinterklaas comes over, or yeah, Sinterklaas, Saint Nick. Anyway, comes over on a steamboat from Madrid with his helpers, and that's like on the 5th, and then Sinterklaas is in the Netherlands, and kids like put their shoes out and they get pepernoten, which is just like little tiny like nubs of like gingerbread that are like bite size. They're really delicious. And they get like a chocolate letter in their shoes, and then they get some gifts. So that's their Christmas. So I wanted to Thanksgiving and do all that stuff before Sinterklaas and the holidays, and nobody's really having holidays parties this year or anything. I'm really chatty today. Anyway, that's what's happening. This is my Awen. I love it. Next one. So the next one came from my desire to knit something dumb stupid, super easy, and then kind of trendy. Like, I'm not cool, but we go to coffee at this one place and everybody like wears fancy shoes and has cool stuff. So I wanted to do something, and I looked at the Op pattern by Jared Flood, which I had in my library, which is a worsted weight pattern, and I knit basically to the sleeve separation, and then realized I had like 58 more stitches, and I was like, well, I can't work with this. So ripped it all out, started again, and I made this. And this thing is like the Vanta Black of sweaters, is kind of how I'm referring to it. It is Drops Alpaca Boucle. So like it is, you can't see anything. It's just a stockinette stitch because it is impossible to read. So like boucle is hard to read in general, but like a black boucle, it's just, you have to trust the process. You have to trust that you're knitting into the right stitch, and just go with it. Just like, Jesus, take the wheel. This is what's happening. This sweater though, I mean, it is phenomenal. It feels so good. It is so warm, so cozy. I've actually worn this bunch because it is really hitting the spot. It is just like, it's just like fluffy, and you feel warm, and it's nice, and it was super fast to knit. So I did the pattern myself because I was like, I'm not, whatever. I knit a split hem. If you can see the contrast in my hand, I did a split hem. I knit like the back, and then I knit the front, and then I joined in the round. And it's a bottom up modified drop shoulder, so I just knit up, and then I split for the sleeves with, I bound off a couple stitches, I think like 3 or something on each side underneath the underarm, and then I went up. So it fits perfectly. The shoulders hit kind of where my shoulders are, and just made a neck with it. The sleeves are then picked up and then knit down. And what I did is I listened to Roxanne Richardson. She has like basic sweater technique stuff, and I just like checked hers as like, I'm making this no pattern drop shoulder thing, And she suggested that you do the decreases on the top of the sleeve rather than the bottom of the sleeve. And you see how this like makes the sleeve go down, and usually like drop shoulder sleeves are like this, and this sort of makes it go like this, if that makes any sense. So it fits your body because you're not like this, you're like this. So it fits your body a little bit more. I don't know if I mean, like, I know that it fits better because of it, but like, it's just big and fluffy, and I just look like an outline of a person when I'm wearing it. But this is wonderful, and I finished it, and I love it, and it cost me, I think I used like 7 balls, and it cost me like 30 euros maybe for like 8 balls it cost me like 30 euros. So it was cheap, it was quick. I did it in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's super fast, just round and round. It was exactly what I needed, and I'm very pleased to have this in my wardrobe. And if it dies or if it becomes not trendy, then that's what happens, and it's okay. But I really like this, and I wanted to share that with you. All right, one more coffee break, and we will get back to the last sweater on the needles, and then we have more to discuss. This is my Paragon from Pom Pom magazine, issue 41. Now, we all know that Pom Pom will be no longer, and I think that's quite unfortunate because in the last couple years they really have like beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things coming out. And I agreed with that, and I own a couple. I haven't knit exactly from them, but this one I'm knitting because this is like knitting goals. Like I wanted to do Intarsia, all of it. Let's just show you the back. I finished one piece. So this is something that comes out when it comes out on the podcast because it takes forever. It took me like, I probably could have knit like 4 sweaters in the amount of time that it took me to do this back. But this is the back. And it is, it's a labor of love, but this is beautiful. I mean, this is how it goes. But like, look at this. Look at it. Like, it is so nice. It is, this is the Paragon by Sylvia Watts Cherry. This is an Intarsia masterpiece. It is incredible. It's incredible. Look at all these ends though. Look at this backside. It is insane. It is a ton of management. But like the finished product is going to be beautiful. This is just going on in the background, not a primary project, because I sat for like 3 or 4 hours yesterday and I got like 6 rows done. Not a lot. It is based off of the Blau pottery. This is like a specific one for KLM and bowls. So KLM, the airline, bowls, the Genevieve distillery. And they do these little like houses or whatever. So I wanted to take like this and make it into a sweater if I don't throw it everywhere. So I wanted to take this and make it into a sweater, and I think I achieved it. And I really just played with tones. I'm really like a solid type of person. I'm not like 1,000 different colors, but I thought that this was cool in terms of like contrast and stuff with the blues. It is I'm gonna put this back. It is a DK weight pattern. It is a knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I'm knitting the smallest size. I'm gonna give this to my mom. I don't know if she knows that yet or not. I haven't told her, but yeah. So this will be good. Now, let's discuss the cast on, and I will also show you the front piece that I'm working on now. Trigger warning. This is a process. Anyway, so for this one, I did the Very Pink Knits tutorial where you sort of like knit flat a piece and then like fold it essentially to do it. And I mean, it looks okay. It's not my favorite, I think, because it pulls in so much. I knit it on a larger needle, on like a 4 millimeter needle. I still think it's quite tight. It looks good, but like something about it is just, it's not the winning one for me. So for this one, I did what I did with the Awen sweater. I basically followed those directions. I made a 2x2, and this is much more forgiving, and I think that's nice. So this this is what this stuff looks like. After the last podcast, I mean, we discussed a couple of different ways to do yarn management and float management and blah, 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 blah. And this is my solution. What I do is just length of yarn. So not currently, but like there's some rows in this. Let me show you the front, where there are 52 different color changes, and then I'm knitting the smallest size. So for like larger sizes and stuff, there are more. So there's a lot of yarn in play. And the reason why this takes so long is not because it's hard. It's because it is a yarn management issue. And yeah. So what I've chosen to do, which seems to be working out the best, is just do like a length or two of my arms and like pull that yarn out and then like knit with that. And what it does is eventually, as the yarn is used up, it sort of like untangles itself. I do have to pause and like, do some stuff. But that seems to work. The biggest culprit right here is, and I'll show you the yarns, but this blue is a Rowan like alpaca merino. And then this, I'm holding the Mominoki with the drops mohair, and these two are like Velcro. They're just like, poof. And so that's contributing to a lot of this. But the rest are pretty okay. And so what I've been doing, and I can illustrate this a little bit better on this one because the other one is a complete mess, but is I knit up to like, there's this band of like relief where it's just like a knit row and then you purl back. And I make sure like I tie in all the ends here, and then I'll like knit up to here, and then I'll tie in all the ends and weave them in. It takes a long time of like admin and stuff if you do that, but I feel like if I had to do all of that stuff at the end, one, there would be a bunch of ends that actually really do get tangled, which are, I don't need any more tangled than I already have. And then two is I don't have to do it all at once because that would take me like 4 days and it would absolutely kill the project. So I would recommend doing that as you go. So that is how the Paragon is looking. I really like it. It's fun to knit. It's not fast. It's easy. You just have to be able to like not freak out, and everything is fine. Into it. But let's go over the yarns. So it's like shades of blue. I'm a very much like if I don't do a solid, then I'm like a gradient type of person. That's really my jam. The Mominoki fibers is a fingering weight Finnwool. Let's see, this is the silver birch color. It's like a watercolor, like on top of like an undyed wool. It's really beautiful. It sort of has a, unclear glass, like glass is naturally like that greenish color. It sort of has that hue to it. And I'm pairing it with this, I don't know, sky blue drops mohair. I've lost the tag. And they're really combining nicely. It's creating this, that's this stripe right here. They're combining quite nicely, I think. They don't look like they go together, but they, like, that's one thing I like about mohair is like you pair it with something else and then it changes how both of them look. So that's that. And there's a undyed one that I'm using. This is from, I got this at Draad, which is like a knitting festival in the Netherlands. It is BFL Sport from the Draad Kracht. It's just an undyed BFL Sport. Then I have unmarked things. This one and this one are Drops Daisy. Bea was asking about it, and I was like, oh, a non-superwash DK from Drops. Like, let's try. So I have these for the like center of the chevrons. So This is this. This is obviously the pop of color. It's like a Cobalt. And then... And I'm using a lot of this, obviously, because it's the ribbing and stuff. This is Rowan Alpaca Soft DK. Comes in 50 gram balls. What other information do I have? Not much. 22 stitches over 10 inches on 4 millimeters. 10 inches, 10 centimeters. 125 meters, 136 yards. Does it say? It says it's made with extra fine, super fine merino and baby alpaca. Super soft. My mom doesn't really like anything itchy, so I wanted non-superwash yarns that all are soft for the skin. So that's what we get. That's what we have. That's the combination that's making this. I'm running through this stuff, but I think I'll have enough. The rest I'll have leftovers of, and we'll see what we do with that. So yeah, I like that project. You probably won't be seeing it until I finish the front, or maybe a sleeve or something like that. It's gonna be over there for a while, which is fine. It's just gonna take a while, and that's gonna be a long-term whip. And when it gets done, it will get done, and it will look beautiful. And I'm sure my mother will really appreciate it. If not, I will just look at it. So that is what? 3 finished sweaters, a modified sweater, a test call, and one I'm working on. Now, I sort of like blew through the 2 black sweaters that you've seen, and those were like my main projects. I think I had a couple of other things going on. But then I was like, I don't know what to knit. I just don't know what to knit. And I have enough of a stash where I was like, I'm not going to buy anything until I can find something that I want to commit to, which we will probably discuss next episode. I'm not quite sure. But I decided on something eventually. The yarn needs to come. It takes, 4 weeks to get yarn here? It's ridiculous. The post, it's not great. They're awful. But the point being is I have enough yarn to do accessories and maybe like some Nordic mittens or some color work or something. So like I can knit through my stash until I'm inspired to knit my next thing. I've also requested some yarn for Christmas from my in-laws who live in the UK. So I requested some Kinross 4-ply, and I have a project for that. But that will be in the new year once I get that. So I've done some swatching. And yeah, this one's cool. This is called illusion knitting. So you see it's just like a 2x2, but look at that. You see that? Ooh, see the stripes appearing? Oh, I don't know if this will turn into anything, but I like the idea. There's that. This one, if I only pick up enough. This one, I knit, like this is Holst and this is Mondim, which for some reason I'm obsessed with Mondim right now. It's fairly affordable, but then the shipping's not so much. I don't know why. But these are essentially the same needle gauge and swatch and then blocked. This was huge. This was like way bigger than this one. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I wanted to try out something and get some gauge. So it's a fairly large swatch. And yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be doing Holst all by itself. In color work, held with something, I think it's good, but I don't think that I'm going to do a whole like just Holst sweater. It's just too light of a fabric for me. I like something with a little bit of density, which is what this Mondim does. It's too lightly spun. Great for color work, and I love this yarn, and I have a whole stash, and I'm going to continue to use it, but not just on its own for a sweater. I did this one. So this is, you can't really see it, but it's a Rowan felted tweed in the color black. And this is what I thought like this sweater would be if it was DK. But I don't like the stitch pattern and I don't like the yarn. So I've decided against that. I really do want some like a tweedy thing, but a lot of tweed has a lot of plastic in it, or they have like weird colors that I don't want. So I don't know. Studio Donegal has this like Aran tweed, which they don't have on stock, but if they do, I have a whole plan for that. Like I'm going to get the black one. We'll have a discussion about it here because it's a goal, and I am keeping an eye out because that is, something we need to do. And then I played around with like a Does Diamond swatch for a sweater. I have an idea for a Does Diamond sweater. There are a couple that are out there that are like a drop shoulder with a similar stitch. That's not what I want to do, and so I wanted to swatch. So I ordered a ton of Cascade 220, which I've never used before, and I like need an affordable yarn because I'm going through it super fast, and I am poor, and long-term unemployed now. So I did a swatch with this. I ordered enough to be all right. It's really nice. It's sort of like, I've read before that was like a dupe for Hudson and West Forge, and I would agree because I also knit up something in Hudson and West Forge in this stitch pattern, just a hat, but like while I was doing this or right before it, and the Forge is like plumpier. There's like a quality to the yarn that's really special that's not in this, but like in terms of gauge and appearance, it's similar. The gauge I think is the same. This is a lot more matte. The Forge has some shine and some like extra plump to it. It's just like infused with some magic. Anyway, so this is the other swatch for the Does Diamond sweater. I will probably slowly do this. What I want to do is a really different type of construction, which is going to take a lot of math just for one size. So I might hire a grader if I'm going to do this. I'm not quite sure. It's going to be quite complicated, and I don't think people will actually buy it. So I don't know if I want to invest in a grader, which they're more expensive than I thought they would be, but they are very much worth it. But I don't know if I want to invest in a grader for a pattern that's like not going to sell. Like I think this will sell because it's beautiful and comfortable and squishy and like really interesting of a knit. But the Does Diamond sweater, I don't think so much. But yeah, and that's all I have for today. So that is my ramble about sweaters, swatches, whatever. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Once again, like, subscribe. This test call, spread the word. I really want you to spread the word. Spread the word. I cannot speak, guys. Guys, we're done. It has become cloudy. I'm no longer functioning. Okay. So, spread the word about this test. I really want to get this going. I'm very excited about it. I love it. If you know me in real life, like, let me show you something. Mr. Does Knitting made this for me for Christmas one year because he was watching a bunch of like sculpture things on YouTube. I normally have like a mustache, but this is how I live. Like, notice the black hoodie and then black jeans or black sweatpants. Like, this is me. This is me. And very typical. So the fact that I am making a hoodie is very near and dear to my heart, and I love it. And I hope you guys do too. Anyway, test call. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to others. Like, it's whatever. So just like kindness, please. Thank you all. I really appreciate you taking your time, and I hope you are well wherever you are. And I will be back with you in another 2 weeks to discuss another topic. I'll check you later. Bye.